Hi, everybody. Today we're here to talk about Henri Matisse. Now, Henri Matisse was born in France in 1869. He worked as a lawyer, and art was a hobby for him. But in 1892, he decided to give up practicing law and being an attorney and decided to move to Paris to study art. He ended up loving that more than he loved being an attorney, so it just seemed like a natural progression for him to change careers. When he moved to Paris, he became associated with a group of painters who used a lot of very bright colors, and they called themselves the fauves, meaning the wild ones. Now, a lot of their colors, if you look at his paintings, a lot of them are very bright. I would describe them almost like candy type colors. So most people were used to seeing things that were more traditional in subject and in style, like Pierre Renoir or Claude Monet, haystacks, flowers, things that looked a little more realistic. His almost had like a cartoon quality to it, especially when you see the woman's face with the heavy black outline. Now, this picture here has a lot of competing patterns, so it is inundated with patterns. You see patterns on the drapery, the pillow, her sweater type of coat here, her blouse, her skirt, the carpet, the tablecloth, the other carpet over here, the wallpaper. So it is just pattern after pattern after pattern. And really, your eyes, when you're looking at it, you don't really know what to focus on because there's so much going on that it makes it hard to decide what to look at. And you can see some of the close up of the patterns here. Now, he also did some paintings that looked a little more realistic. But in 1941, he went into the hospital for surgery, and when he came out, he was paralyzed. So he could no longer stand and paint large canvases, but he could sit and cut. So he became a cut paper collage artist, and there is a very large Matisse paper cut design down at the Carnegie Museum. It is called 1001 Nights, and it is in the permanent collection. So if you ever go down there to see it, please take a look. It's in the permanent collection. This right here is a paper cut design of his. This is called the snail, and it's very nondescript. It's very very basic, but yet done by a world famous artist. So if you're thinking that cutting paper is only for little kids, you're wrong, because it's actually a very valid media art form. So he died in 1954. He was 85 and known as one of the greatest artists of the 20th century. So Henri Matisse, our artist of the week. Now we're going to talk about two elements of art that are the building blocks of art that have a lot to do with this project. One of them is going to be shape. Now, shape is something that you can be drawn, painted, cut in this case, and it is surrounded by a line that defines the space. Earlier in the year, we talked about line and how it defines a space. Well, the shape is what is the result of that. And you can this is probably the best example here, these leaves right here, and then you see the creation of the leaf by tracing around it. So shapes are flat. They are not three-dimensional. They are two-dimensional. They have length and width, but they have no height. And they can be organic, which is more free-flowing or free-form, or they can be more geometric, like you have square, triangle, rectangle, circle, a pentagon, hexagon, trapezoid, more geometric shapes. So a shape can be either organic or geometric. Now, leading that shape into space, you can see how different shapes can overlap. And when shapes overlap, it gives you an illusion of space. Space is how things are laid out in an artwork. So are they crowded in one spot? When something is in front of something else, it shows you depth perception. So that is how space is used. Some things can be very, draw your eye to them immediately. And then you don't necessarily notice the space around it, but it is just as important. That's what we call positive and negative space. Positive space is something that your eye catches first. Negative space is something that you notice probably a little bit later, but it is just as important as positive space. Negative space is just as important. They balance each other out in terms of their use. So positive and negative space. Now I'm going to show you a cut paper design using positive and negative space. And I will also show you at the end of this video a drawn version of positive and negative space if by chance you do not have color construction paper and you're learning remotely and you don't have construction paper. If you are in my class right now, we'd be using the color construction paper. But if you're learning from home, don't worry. This can be done as a drawing type of lesson too if you don't have those supplies, because I'm trying to make it as flexible as I can for you. So you're going to need 1/2 sheet of 9 by 12 paper. So this is 4.5 by 9. This is a 9 by 12. Now, once you have those 4 shapes cut out, now you have to align them up with the frame. I've glued this down to my large sheet of paper because we don't want it to move. We're done cutting that. But these are the pieces that we have to figure out where they go. So this one goes here, positive shape, leaves behind negative space. So I'll just tack that right there. Okay? This one here, positive shape, negative space. So it leaves behind a space that is just as big, so then the whole shape becomes twice the size. So you're going to, once you have these cut, you can start gluing them down. But you can also do like doubles and triples and things like that, which I'm going to show you now. Now we can cut other shapes out of these shapes. It might be good in the beginning, if you're just trying this for the first time, to keep the same shape that you started with. So if I'm using a rectangle here, I think it would probably be good to cut another rectangle so you don't confuse yourself too much. So here is my positive shape. That was my negative space. So now I'm going to cut another one out of that. So here is the first piece that is glued down. Here is the second piece. Now I can even cut another one out of that and make this a triple. So a triple will have 3, which I think looks pretty neat when it's done. So that is the double and that is the triple. So you can see how it goes back and forth and back and forth. And when you use colors that have a lot of contrast, you get like that color vibration with them, which I think is really neat to get. So here is my first one that I did here with the triangle, and I'm going to do another one of those. So I'm going to cut a triangle out of that one. Here is the first piece. I've already put the glue there because I was trying to save myself a little bit of time. So negative space would be flipped back in that way. But I want to cut another piece out of that. So I'm going to do that. So here is my double. This one gets flipped back in. That is my triple. So if you start off with a bigger shape, you can get multiples out of it. You can get the doubles, triples, quadruples, quintuples, as many as you need to get. Now, I'm going to show you the drawn version of this, and you can feel free to stop this video at any time because it may be going a little fast for you, and that's okay. You can always stop and get caught up. So let me do a changeover for the drawn version of this lesson. These are just a few examples I wanted to show you of positive and negative space with multiples. I used black and white. I like using the colors black and white in art because as dark as one is, the other one is light, and you just get a nice contrast. And I myself really like contrast in colors. That's just something that I like to see in an artwork. So these are just some examples. This one is a quintuple. This one is a triple. This one is a quadruple. This one is a quintuple. So you can see how you can build these with the bigger shape that you start off with. You can make it go smaller and smaller. First thing you're going to do for a drawn version is take a small piece of paper, fold it in half. And if you remember way back in first grade, when I said hold on the fold, cut on the fold. If you're holding on the fold, it will allow you to make a shape that is the same symmetrically, and it'll be double the size. So let's just say I'm going to start with a butterfly. Something simple. Cut this out. And this would also be your positive shape, and this will be negative space. So how about that? Now, once you have this cut, you're going to lay this down. You're going to draw around it. So I've drawn around it 4 times. I took a sheet of white paper, I folded it in half, then I folded it in half again. These are just 9 by 12 sheets of paper. You probably have a piece of copy paper or notebook paper, same thing. So I traced around these, and now I can choose the colors that I want to show the positive and the negative with. So it's really just whatever colors you like. Like I said, I like contrast, but that's just me. So here is one example, and I did with the butterflies because I really liked the way the pink and the blue look, especially like the turquoise and almost like a magenta pink. But I also really like yellow, and I decided to go complementary yellow and purple on this one. So yellow positive shape, purple negative. Purple positive, yellow negative. So it doesn't matter. Here is another one that I did that I really like because I like to use the color black in artwork. So this one I decided to make a snowman out of because I was thinking of snow. And I cut out my little snowman and I laid it down and I traced around it. So I have a turquoise blue snowman here, positive. White is the negative space. Just the reverse on this one. White is the positive. Turquoise is the negative space. This one up here I particularly like because I like using black in artwork. So this dark blue, which I love, is the positive. The black right here is the negative. Now, just the opposite on this one. The black in this one is the positive shape, positive space. The space around it, the blue, is the negative. So it's the same type of thing, but using a drawn format, that's all. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson on positive and negative space and shape, and I will see you soon. Bye.